Obviously, the big story from the weekend, the fall of Shedeur Sanders, but he does end up with the Cleveland Browns about, 124 picks later than a lot of people expected him to be drafted. So he goes to the Browns in the 5th round at pick 144. And so one of the unfortunate storylines that was attached to this whole Shedeur Sanders circus over the weekend was the fact that he was prank called. So Thursday night, he received a prank call from somebody saying that, hey, it's Mickey Loomis with the Saints. We're going to be drafting you. And, let's take a listen.
Say it one more time for me.
This is Mickey Loomis here, GM of the Saints.
How you doing?
Good, how are you, man?
Good, been waiting on you.
Yeah, we have. It's been a long wait, man.
No, for sure.
We're going to take you with our next pick right here, man.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Let's be legendary.
But you're going to have to wait a little bit longer, man.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Now, as it turns out, that was actually Jax Ulbrich. If the last name sounds familiar, it's Jeff Ulbrich, Falcons defensive coordinator, former interim coach of the New York Jets. It's his son, who apparently his dad's iPad was open, and he went into his dad's iPad, and he gathered the phone number of Shedeur Sanders to make the crank call that you just heard. And I think it's terrible because this only happened to Shedeur Sanders. Okay, you don't see this happening to anybody else, all right?
Yeah.
You don't see.
Well, let's first address the obvious, because there's a couple ways I look at this personally. As having gone through someone who was drafted, it's a dream. This is something that players put a lot of time, effort, sacrifice into for that moment you get the call. And that call for many players who get drafted, that's one of the most memorable moments of their life. So to have someone do something so immature, so ridiculously stupid, to take away from that or impart themselves on someone else's dream or that moment, it stinks. It stinks all the way around. So I hate this for Shedeur and then every other player that it's happened to, and we'll get to that in a second. But here's the other side of the conversation. As dumb as it was, and Jax has come out and apologized. I think he called Shedeur Sanders too, at least it looked like on social media, to own up to how stupid of a mistake it was. It's hard for me to say much about it because I've done a ton of prank calls. I used to grow up listening to the Jerky Boys, which anyone who grew up during that area, you go find that cassette tape, you pop it in, and if you had a 2-hour drive, you'd be listening to the Jerky Boys the entire way there. And it was hilarious. It was one of the stupidest, most immature things you would do or listen to, but it was funny. It's just unfortunate that it's taking in this moment where it's such a huge moment for someone like Shedeur, again, who had expectations of going in the 1st round, who had expectations going the 2nd, 3rd round, and really didn't even get drafted until the 5th. So it was a grueling process for him. So it's unfortunate that it had to play out that way, and especially considering it was the son of a guy who's a defensive coordinator in the NFL.
So I want you to be honest here, all right?
Yeah.
I want you to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, all right?
Yeah.
When's the last time you crank called somebody?
It's been a while, but I thought back in the situation, because I try to be self-aware enough to be I really can't pass judgment on someone when I think I told you, we had a car got egged one night, and I was yeah, I really can't say anything here because I did some juvenile stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of kids you TP people's houses. If your house gets TP'd, it's yeah, you kind of had that coming. In this instance, I was thinking man, we made some crank calls back in the day, and I feel like there's a number of people who probably weren't too excited about the bit that we were playing. Yeah. So it's been a long time. I don't know that I've done one since maybe high school or something. But
I crank called Andy Furman from the.
Well, that's deserving.
Well, but I did it because he was off. It was like a holiday when I was producing their show, him and Mike North, and they were off. And so I was still in the studio. And so I called him from the studio line because I knew he would see an 818 number and freak out because he goes into panic mode real easy. And he answered the phone, and I told him I was Mike Rogers from Clear Channel. And
okay.
I was from the HR department, and he said something that was uncomfortable on the air. He had me on speakerphone. He was driving to vacation with his family, and he started freaking out. And I could tell he was nervous. And Frank Pollock, the old tech producer, was in the studio laughing his ass off. And finally, I told him who I was. He goes, "You almost gave me a heart attack." His voice was quivering, and I realized, man, that's not a nice thing to do at all. Because he literally almost went into convulsions because I crank called him, telling him I was from the HR department. But I would say that's not quite as mean as calling somebody who's waiting out for the draft,
right?
And trying to get picked, only to hear that it's Jeff Ulbrich's son. Which, by the way, could you imagine Jeff Ulbrich?
Yeah,
a little bit of a meathead. You imagine getting a call from him saying you are going to call him,
buddy. Call. I am driving to where my son's at and beating him. I've got 2 sons, and I can promise you, like, to do something like that to someone else in that moment, like, again, it's all fun and games in other instances, but not then. And especially not considering how confidential the information was that they found, and just how stupid it is for kids to put stuff on camera and all of that. But that's beside the point. Can we stop with the race baiting? Like, all the people out there who want to make this like a racial issue.
It is.
He wasn't the only one who was prank called, by the way. This draft. Forget last year where Cooper DeJean was prank called. No one wants to talk about that. Tyler Warren was also prank called. There was a third player who was actually prank called 30 minutes after he was gotten drafted, and someone told him he was getting traded. So there's one of a few things happening here. It's either these numbers are getting out from NFL personnel who think it's funny, or their kids find it and they're not locked up as tight as they should be. Or it's just a matter of, like, some of these players' numbers are getting out there. But so how it typically works, and again, this stuff is usually all confidential. Like, they get a cell phone the day before if you're not there at the draft. So I guess the other thing I'd say, if you want to eliminate this, is you go to the draft. Like, maybe that's where we need Robert Stack's music right now.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we need right now. This is all, like, done by the NFL as a conspiracy theory to try to get more people to attend the draft.
Good call. I'm in.
Because if you don't want to be prank called, you better attend the draft. You better get there, because it's not possible there, right? You get your name announced, they tell you, like, you walk out to the stage, you're there, you see Roger, you see whoever's with the team, and then you're being selected. So maybe this is all behind the scenes effort for the NFL to actually have players at the draft.
I'm a sucker for conspiracy theories. I'm into that one. Let's roll with it. All right, let's go. Like that. That's a good one. And let's see how many people we can convince of that. But that's why these crank calls are happening, because they want more people to go to the draft so they don't have to deal with them. I'm in.
I mean, they're trying their best.
Yeah.
It's a hard sell for some of these kids. Although I do believe there was a player who went to the draft this year that was drafted in the 4th round. Is it like Baron Sorrell or something like that?
Yeah, and he got drafted from out of Texas, and he got drafted. Right. And he stayed there the entire time, and then ended up getting drafted by Green Bay, which was awesome. That he got the walk, the celebration, the treatment. Yeah. You could tell by the outfit he wore, though, he packed for one night. Because that was kind of a, well, I don't have a suit.
I don't know that he thought he was getting drafted day 1. I thought he thought he was getting drafted day 2, and then he slid into the 4th. So I can understand that, but it's a long way. It'd be a tough sell. And we've also seen in the past, like, teams like New England who valued Cole Strange as a 1st-round pick. Meanwhile, you have Les Snead and Sean McVay laughing because, like, oh, we went to that guy in the 4th round. He's like, he's not even going to be there. They're laughing about it, thinking he could be there on day 3. So there's a wide disparity between what certain teams think and what they value versus others. And I also think that's going back to the initial part of the conversation with Shedeur. It's one of the reasons why, you look at what these teams value and what they look at. Well, Cleveland's the only one that took him in the 5th round. And they obviously value things differently and see things differently than a lot of other teams, which at that point probably either didn't have a need at a quarterback or didn't value some of the things that Shedeur brings at that spot. But let's just stop. All right. This isn't just on Shador. It's not a racial thing. It's happened to a bunch of players. It's unfortunate. It's immature, but look, it's a bunch of dudes being idiots. And like, if you think that's going to stop anytime soon, you're out of your mind. Okay.